pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bruce, roll call, please.
Councilmember Barrett.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Bisbal.
Here.
Councilmember Ellis.
Here.
Councilmember Gazelle.
Here.
Mayor Kajirski.
Here.
Councilmember Kusick.
Here.
Councilmember Seeley.
Present.
Okay, on, the minutes are on page 3 to 6. Please take a look at our August 21st regular meeting minutes, and if okay, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Not all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Also, we have commission minutes and committee minutes, the Planning Commission, Finance Committee, following on page 7 to 11. I need a motion to accept in the public domain.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Public comment? We have any public comment? We'll have public comment later, but if anybody has something they want to say, this is a good time to say it. Okay. Well, the next item, this is really the best part of my job, is to greet and welcome people of distinction. And so I'd like the Little League team to come up here. We got our infield and some of our outfield players. Coach, come on. Well, it's an honor to have you here because, boy, you gave us a great ride. So, at this point, whereas the Grosse Pointe Wood Shores Little League Major All-Star Tournament team had a very successful season. In July, they won the 2018 Local District 6 Championship, beating Grosse Pointe Farm City by a score of 4-2, taking them to the state tournament in St. Clair, beating Rockford 10-1, South Portage 17-2, Marysville 17-3, White Lake 12-0, and beating Bay City 5-4, and Rockford 12-7 in the semifinal and final game of the state tournament. Whereas the team then traveled to Indianapolis, where they beat state champs from Illinois 7-2, Wisconsin 12-2, Ohio 14-2, and Indiana 13-0 to advance to the Little League World Series in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, as the champions of the Great Lakes region. They beat the regional champs from Idaho, the winners of the Northwest region 5-4. This was the first Little League World Wood Shores victory in history. The team then played the West Regional champions from Hawaii, falling 8-3 before battling back to win against Iowa, representing the Midwest region 5-4. The team ended its run after a close loss of 4-3 to Georgia, the Southeast region champs. And whereas the championship team was led by manager Kirk Barr, the assistant coaches Reggie Sharp, I'm sorry, okay, and Melissa Champagne. The team consisted of Preston Barr, Ryan Henderson, Brendan Hill, Ryan Cable, Jake Martin, Marwin Matthews, Chase Maisie, Elliot Niederhood, Jared Purify, Cam Schaefer, J.J. Sheck, Officer Service, and Reggie Sharp. And therefore, myself, Ed Kajirski, as mayor of Grosse Pointe Shores, on behalf of the city council and all the residents of Grosse Pointe Shores, wish to express the appreciation of the community for the efforts of the players, coaches, and volunteers of the Grosse Pointe Wood Shores All-Star Tournament team. So thank you, guys. Thank you. The key to success was to be behind 4-0, and in the two games that we won, they were losing 4-0 late in the game, and we came back to win. That was the key to success. And we have proclamations for everyone. And the team they lost to in game 2 won the entire tournament. Hawaii. Thank you.
I don't want that kind of need this kind.
And we have hats.
Sam, but I want to do
They're not as nice as wood shores hats, but. Good.
Take the other ones back down.
Just Bring one of the ones from Maxwell and ask them if they got something similar.
Okay.
And if they got the exact same thing for a private price, just.
Big deal for a hat.
What did they charge, about $7 a
I
go?
love that.
Yeah, they should be around $7.
I mean, I'll keep the ones.
Would you like to say a few words for the team? Yes. Because what a ride you gave our community. Playing 4 games on national TV.
Yeah, I'd just like to say to everybody, thank you very much for the tremendous support that we had throughout the community while we were in the different places, Illinois and, Indiana and Williamsport. We were hard at our craft and working hard, and the kids were working hard, and we really weren't aware of everything that was going on as much as it was back here. But we started getting phone calls and support, and it really made us feel good and work harder and make the kids. And we just appreciate all the support that everybody gave. So much.
Would any of the players like to say a few words? You want to say a few words?
You know, it was nice getting out there and making their support.
Thank you for coming. It's a delight to watch you. People are saying, Grosse Pointe Wood Shores, Grosse Pointe Wood Shores. Everywhere in the state I went, they said, oh, I'm watching your little league team. On national TV.
I take this one.
So was, and the team that we lost to in Georgia, I think their starting pitcher wouldn't have been eligible to pitch, but there was a rain out.
Do I need
And so
all
we
this?
got their best pitcher.
See, that's the clamp. that
And
just don't tell
it was a
them.
rain
That's
out,
the lens that goes.
but it only spit. It didn't really rain.
Well,
It was
better than Home
forecast
Depot.
that it was going to be a very bad day of just rainstorms and everything, and the skies were dark. But in reality, it rained practically every day that we were there. The grounds crew and the field was just magnificent. And the day that we didn't play, it only spit, and we could have played both games.
Well, it's a shame because it was that time and we had the best pitcher. So, okay, thank you very much for coming.
Now, this is a free consultation. Just put it all, you'll figure it out.
You beat the Tigers. And the Lions. And the Lions.
You guys are being,
We could beat the Lions.
That's for sure.
At least they're consistent.
Yeah, unfortunately.
all right, thanks for coming, guys. Okay. Our next item on the agenda is we have a vacancy with the library board, the liaison to Grosse Pointe Shores. We have a couple applicants. Who wants to go first? Oops. Oops. Oh, you got that signed? Okay. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Yes, come on, please come, Prudence.
Hello, my name is Prudence Cole. I think you all have my credentials, but I'll just say that I've been a resident of Grosse Pointe Shores for 31 years. I've been a longtime patron and supporter of the libraries and of our library, including over 10 years as an active member of the Grosse Pointe Library Foundation. Recently, I was term limited off the Library Foundation Board. This was a clause that I helped create because I thought it was valuable to our foundation that we had a turnover for new members. But I've been asked to stay on as a board member emeritus, so even though I thought I was going to get to walk away, I'm still there at meetings anyway, providing guidance. While on the board, I developed many of the administrative procedures we now have in place, including orientation of new board members, as well as I wrote the first strategic plan that the Library Foundation Board had. Up until then, the Library Foundation did not have a strategic plan, and the Library Board didn't have a strategic plan. So the foundation had a plan that I helped put together with a number of other members of the team. I also developed a program called Right to the Point, which was to feature writers that are in our Grosse Pointe area, as well as to encourage other writers. And this program still goes on to this day. And I was also instrumental in proposing the reestablishment of the Books on the Lake. If you know the history, that was a long-standing library event. It was canceled due to finances. So I proposed to the Library Foundation that we reestablish it. I did that with one stipulation, and that was that we would have a speaker from Grosse Pointe, a writer, somebody who has written a book from Grosse Pointe, somebody from Michigan, and then a national author. So in general, they followed that, although they'd missed it this year, but we'll get back on that next year. I have been an active fundraiser as well as supporter of Friends of the Grosse Pointe Library, which is also in our community, two separate organizations, and so we work hard to work together to support our libraries. And I guess the last thing I would say is that one of my disappointments has been that our library trustees, in general, not individually, but in general, have not been supportive of our fundraising efforts. We have a few trustees that attend fundraising efforts, but it's not a universal attendance. And so if I were made a trustee, I would be sure to not only support the Library Foundation fundraisers, but try to ensure that the rest of the trustees do as well. So, thank you.
Very good, Prudence. Prudence, what's the top issue facing the library?
Well, the issue that's going to be coming up is the millage. And it'll be in the general election in November. And it is to continue the millage to support the retirement of the debt service for the two library branches, the Woods and Ewald. And if you ask me my position, I'm kind of up in the air on it, but because if I were a library trustee, it's been decided that it is something we're supporting, and I would support that. So I haven't really gotten into the details of it because it hasn't been something that I'm dealing with. I am currently now on the SOC Foundation, and I'll just put a plug in to say our fundraiser is coming up. And like the library, which supports all of the Grosse Pointes, SOC supports the seniors for all of the Grosse Pointe. So I would encourage all of you to attend. It'll be a great event with some great fundraising items. So,
Prudence, does the Friends still have the book sale in the basement of Woods?
Yes, they do.
Okay, do they? Okay.
yes, they do. But the Friends, and the Library Foundation are two separate organizations. We are working really hard to come together as one, but there's been a history of it being two separate. There's a long history I could go into, but we're trying to move past that and make it, ultimately, my goal would be that it would be one organization. But to mandate that is not going to cause a lot of, people don't work together because you mandate them. People work together because you work with them to help them come together. So,
Well, thank you very much for coming.
all right, thank you.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Paul Rentenbach. I'm a recent resident of Grosse Pointe Shores. I've been in Grosse Pointe over 66 years in the farms and the park. My wife and I recently moved over to Hawthorne and purchased a house. I served on the library board from 2014 to 2018, and my term expired in June. I was appointed by the Grosse Pointe City Council as the at-large member in 2014. I also served on the Grosse Pointe Library Foundation board for 2 years with Prudence, and we worked together very well. I was on the finance committee for the board. My experience has been as an attorney, a private attorney with a Dykema firm downtown for 39 years. I retired several years ago. And my expertise was corporate governance, corporate finance, and municipal finance. So I've been very involved in the library finances and the planning for the library millage, or the renewal millage, I should call it. I'm on the renewal millage committee. I'm treasurer of that committee. I would like to serve the rest of Kim Valise's term, which is 2 years. Her term expires in June 2020, and continue with my efforts to get the millage passed and the budgetary issues at the library put on sound footing. I was on the finance committee for the library board for several years. I am a supporter of the foundation. I donate to it, and I do go to events. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions of Paul? Paul, you feel the number one issue is the millage then, right?
The millage and the mending of the relationships between the employees and the management as a result of the difficult union negotiations we had last year. I was involved in a number of critical decisions during my 4-year term, one of which was selecting a new library director, one of which was approving the total renovations we did to the central library, and the third one was dealing with the union contract negotiations, which were very difficult and finally resolved to everybody's satisfaction. But I think there's a little bit of mending of fences that needs to be done there that we're working on with management.
Well, any questions of Paul? Paul, thanks for coming. We'll make a decision at the next council meeting, and it'll vote it on then. Okay, thank you both. I'm going to add an item to the agenda. We're pleased to have, I guess, the complaint department for DTE, right, Jennifer? Please come on up and, tell us what's going on with our power.
Your power, Ted.
Here you go.
We're good over here. Almost generators, so.
I think as I indicated before, we lost power 4 times this summer. Some short, 45 minutes, and, but then I get the call.
Sure. So I wanted to, good evening, thanks for having me come to this tonight. I was asked to give you an update on both the gas and electric operations that we have had in the city of Grosse Pointe Shores this year. So I'm going to start with gas. Many of you know that DTE Energy as a whole is embarking on this huge infrastructure investment campaign. So last year we spent $660 million on infrastructure improvement. This year we're slated to spend more than $765 million, and our 5-year strategic plan has us spending more than $4.2 billion in just infrastructure improvements. And so residents of Grosse Pointe Shores have experienced some of that infrastructure improvement through our gas main renewal program. Hot off the presses, I talked to the gas manager this afternoon to see where we were at. We installed our last set of meters on the last residential street here in Grosse Pointe Shores on Colonial. We hope to start paving Colonial as soon as tomorrow, and so that will be done on the residential side. The last portion of gas main that we're planning to replace is at the Yacht Club. We're working with the leadership of the Yacht Club, and we're waiting on a permit from Michigan DEQ. Once we get that, we hope to start that work mid-October, and that should take us only a few days. So once we're done with the Yacht Club work, we should be done on the gas renewal part of the program in Grosse Pointe Shores. You will still see me around town because we've still got the city and the park to do in the next few years. With regard to electricity, I asked Brett to help me pass out a presentation to y'all. You can see on that second page, we've outlined the city boundaries and the 2 substations that serve Grosse Pointe Shores and the circuits that serve Grosse Pointe Shores. The Vernier substation is near Mac and Vernier and Grosse Pointe Woods. The Grosse Pointe substation is actually in the city of Detroit, and that serves the shores. On the next page, which would be the 3rd page, it describes 3 types of what we would call power quality categories. What we would consider low voltage is when the voltage that's coming to the meter is below the norm of 114 to 126 volts. You will experience that from time to time, and we encourage residents to protect their more sensitive devices against that. Momentary outages are those annoying outages that are less than 5 minutes long, trip your clocks, trip everything else. Nationwide, residents experience momentary outages 6 to 12 times per year, and it's actually telling us that the equipment on the grid is working, right? So we're operating devices on the grid to prevent larger, more sustained outages. So it's a good thing. It's working. Sustained outages are the ones that are more than 5 minutes long, and those are the ones that the mayor was talking about. Mark asked me to talk specifically about 3 of them, and on the next page, which page I believe is the location which is in the southern part of the city. And I was asked to talk about the outages in July, August, and September of this year in this area. So both July and August's sustained outages were due to trees in the primary. Found a tree branch on a primary.
But they were nice days, sunny days, I mean, as far as my neighbors have reported.
And, you know, it depends on the condition of the tree, if the branches, I mean, if the tree isn't doing well and it's diseased or what have you, and it falls on the primary, there's not much we can do about that. And in some cases, I will tell you, I do not know if this is the case for these two incidents, but we have experienced where the trees are actually outside of the right-of-way, and however the tree branch falls comes into the primary line. So there's really nothing we can do about that at all, because it's not in our right-of-way, in the right-of-way. And then the last outage I was asked to talk about was the one on Labor Day. That's the day there was a little bit of wind, a small localized storm, and a fuse popped. And we had to go back out there and put the fuse back in to restore it.
But that was more of a brownout, Jennifer,
Was
as far.
that one a
It was
brownout?
more of a brownout.
Okay.
We had some power, but it was dim and fluctuating.
There was a little bit of a wind that knocked
That
out.
day, knocked it out.
So we got a
Popped
big
the fuse.
wind,
Okay.
the whole city.
I'll let them know. I didn't ask, perhaps I didn't ask for enough detail from the engineers to know exactly what happened that day. And I'll be honest with you, and the reports that I get to see, the crews are really busy trying to get to their next job, so they are not as descriptive as we would like them to be. But, you know, it takes a little bit of conversation to find out what went on in the field. But I'll let the engineers know that was just more of a local.
More of a brownout and
situation.
then, yes.
Okay, okay. So then I asked our engineering group and our planning group to tell me what we've done and what we plan to do going forward. And so you'll see on the last page of the presentation that we have invested $350,000 since 2016 to improve reliability in the area. In the last 2 years, we have replaced overhead construction to mitigate tree interference. We were reconductoring and rebuilding some of those primary lines. We're installing equipment to sectionalize the grid. So for instance, if an outage would previously affect the entire circuit, we're installing devices so it doesn't affect the entire circuit, just a portion of the circuit. So it reduces the amount of people that are affected by that outage. And lastly, it's tree trimming. Going forward, we will again look at tree trimming to help with the reliability. Even more so now, the latest studies that we have found in our service territory alone is that with good cyclical tree trimming, we can reduce the duration of an outage by 75 to 80%. So that's really a basis for our reliability campaign, and then also improving and hardening the infrastructure. They're starting to make their plans now for 2019 work, and I will make sure I keep in contact with Mark and Brett. Whatever is planned for the shores, I will let them know as soon as I know.
Jennifer, at one time, one of your employees walked down our street, and then he admitted that it needed to be split. Our circuit had too much on it.
Was
and
that
it needed to be
recently?
split. No, it was like earlier in the year.
Oh, okay, okay.
And he said we're part of the Grosse Pointe Farm Circuit, and it's been overloaded.
Okay.
Now, again,
So
this
that would be
is,
the Grosse Pointe area.
this
the
is
Grosse
an
Pointe
employee, I didn't
substation
take
area.
down his name or anything, but it just seems like we've been in the same house for 24 years, that the outages are more constant. And then when you have like 20 clocks in the house to reset, you know, it just,
That's Edison's fault, right?
it takes me 10
I'll take that
minutes.
one, because I have to reset all mine too. Okay, so I will talk to the engineers about the brownout situation back in September, and then the discussion about whether or not we need to split the circuit in the southern portion of the city. Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we appreciate you coming. Are there any questions from council?
Yeah, I have one.
Mm-hmm.
This is related to the gas line replacement.
Uh-huh.
When you did my street, they had to take out 4 sections of sidewalk in front of my home, and the earth-moving equipment that they broke out the old cement with basically destroyed it, crushed about 8 feet of curb in front of my home. And then the large machine that you guys drill with underneath the sidewalk panels to run the new gas lines was parked on my lawn apron, but about 2 feet of it extended over the apron of my driveway and cracked the corner of my driveway. And my wife has called, and I even sent a letter, an email off to our DPW and city manager about it recently. I don't know what you can do, but it's been quite a while.
I'll take it back to the restoration manager. I just need the address mark.
Okay. Yeah.
Any other questions? Again, we appreciate you coming and getting to know us, but you're the complaint department, we're the complaint department, so, okay. So thank you very much, Jennifer. Okay.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Rhonda, reports by chairpersons.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight, you have your normal packet for the finance department. The list of wire transfers are basically normal for this time of the year. The tax distribution that'll be occurring tomorrow, when I printed up this sheet, I didn't have the amounts, but it's basically $2.5 million. That's how much money we've taken in during the last 2 weeks. Currently, we're at 95% collected on property taxes for the summer. Also on the transfer list, you'll see our bond payments at the end of the month that will be made. The list of checks issued since the last meeting are pretty normal. There was a couple of high ones for inland waters, for the Lakeshore Interceptor project, and also Nagel Paving, a portion of their construction work. That payment was due in August. And there's also some tree removal and tree trimming charges also.
How are we, Rhonda, with the budget for the park with now that the tennis courts are pretty much finished? And how did we come out to where we budgeted?
Yeah, I'm still waiting for some more bills to come in.
Okay.
Finals on that.
Under budget? Okay.
Under estimates.
Great. Good. Good to know.
I see we had Dittman Tree Service on an emergency basis. Brett?
That was a tree right out here.
Oh, was it?
That was about ready to come down on Vernier.
Okay. But we are now over to Arbor, correct? That's our new Arbor Pro? Okay.
Yeah, the Arbor Pro did, Brett, didn't they do the one, yeah, Fairlight.
Okay.
And Rhonda, Tyler Technologies Maintenance.
Yeah, Tyler Technology is our software company that takes care of most of the financial software. So that it is a large bill. There are a lot of programs, whether it's accounts payable, general ledger, payroll, the utility billing, capital assets,
Okay.
cash receipts.
Okay.
A lot of software updates in there.
That's a pretty high bill. And then Howard Company for actuarial attestation?
Yeah, that's for the retiree drug subsidy program.
Okay.
We have to have our benefits and,
It's a peer review, like,
Yes.
review? Okay.
Let me just add to that. That was work done by the joint consultant for the Grosse Pointe, Mark Manquin in the past. It's been required to be put out. And that results, I don't recall what's our RDS this year. Each year they have to analyze, there are 2 federal programs that return money to us. In essence, there are discounts. And RDS is always the one that, the other one is called Egg Whip, whatever the heck that's.
right, and it's just a retiree drug subsidy for us.
But they have to do an analysis, and then we get our share of that based on the bills that we submit to them.
Okay. Okay, good. Are there any other questions? If not, I need a motion to approve this check run.
Just the one on the drinking fountains installation for 3,600.
Yes, you probably have noticed the new drinking fountains, whether it's down right outside this council room here or upstairs and at the park also.
Okay, so
but
it was 3 drinking fountains.
Or is there 4?
I think there were 4.
Okay, that's a little better.
But if you notice them, they're where
They're
people
not
can
drinking
refill their
fountains, they're
water
hydration
bottles
stations.
easily through it.
Okay.
Aren't they hydration stations? Isn't that the term of art?
Yeah, I'm gonna come over
That
here
doubles
and
the
get
cost.
water bottles.
I'm reading more and more about these drinking fountains. Do we test the water in those drinking fountains, or
I do
There's a
not know that.
filter.
I know
that
these are
reacts to
filtered.
Filtered water, actually.
is it
Yeah.
filtered? Okay.
That's why they're called hydration stations. I'm serious, that's what they're called. That's how they can charge us more.
It's true.
The balance of the, or I guess we need to approve the bills.
Yes, I need a motion to approve this.
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay.
Yeah, in the balance of your regular packet, you have your budget and revenue statements for all the various funds along with the balance sheet. The audit is, we're still waiting on some OPEB reports and some more GASB reports from the actuary, and then the audit report should be final. At this point, I believe we're going to have a small surplus fund balance for the general fund this year, but I'm always going to wait until the audit's actually in on that.
Rhonda, you had mentioned that you're 95% collected in the property taxes. Is that about normal at this time of the year?
Yes, yes. One thing that we do that most communities don't is that probably towards the end of the week, once we get caught up, we'll be sending letters to those people that we have not received their tax payment,
Okay.
just in case they mislaid it or they thought they sent it in,
Okay.
you know, so they can get it paid without the interest starting to compound on it.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Rhonda, on the balance sheet, there's a liability, driving school fund, $510.
Right. When certain cases that come in front of the court, the judge or the prosecutor or both will recommend that the
Oh,
defendant
school, okay.
attend
It
driver's.
flows through okay, it's a flow through.
We charge them a fee. The money stays in that fund until they actually attend the school, and then we're paying the school. It's in Grosse Pointe Park.
Okay, good. Thanks, Rhonda. Bruce, Finance Committee?
If I can just continue a little
Oh,
bit.
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.
More good one.
In front of you, you'll have this report. The Finance Committee got to see it last week. But here's the bound copy. This is also on our website, so anyone can take a look at it there, and also we'll have a hard copy in the office if anyone wants to come in and take a look at it. Basically, this report is something I put together to explain what the budget is, our process for the budget, explaining the different funds, what their purposes and uses are, how we finance these funds, typical expenses of the funds. So I think it's something that residents, taxpayers will get a better understanding of the financial side of the city. And also, once I completed this report, I submitted it to the Governmental Finance Officers Association to see if we can qualify for a budget presentation award.
Oh, very well done, Rhonda. Very well done. So,
It goes above well done. We talked about this on the Finance Committee. Thank you so much for all your hard work and for this comprehensive, because I think new members, new residents to the city should see most of this and get a feel for where they live and what's happening around here. Very well done. Again, thank you.
Yeah, even, I had one of our staff members just read it over to catch those typos. And, you know, she even commented that she wished she would have seen this years ago to have a better understanding of how things work.
plus you have a nice picture of us.
Now, is each home gonna receive one of these?
Well,
How's
it's
this gonna work?
available to the public to view online.
Oh, okay,
It's on the, it's available online if you want to download it and look at it.
okay.
And, you know, if somebody called Mark and requested a copy, we'd certainly give it to them.
76 pages, but very
It would
well,
cost
very
more
well
than a
presented.
calendar to send out.
Okay.
And, you know, this is just something that, moving forward each year, we can just improve on it. If you give me any positive or negative feedback on it, I'd love it, just so I can work on, you know, creating a better document next year and the following years.
Plus, we can have a test afterwards. Have the council know.
That's right.
Very nice.
Thank you, Rhonda.
And I'd also like to mention, we had our car show 2 Sundays ago. Too bad it wasn't this past Sunday when the weather was great. But even with the high winds, the occasional drizzle, cold temperatures, we still had 70 cars show up, which last year when we had great weather, we had 75. So who knows how many more cars we would have had show up at the show. 2 of our residents, or 2 vehicles owned by residents, did win trophies for their categories. Tim Hogan for his 1926 Chrysler G70 rumble seat, and then Stan Har and Laura Bartel had a 1992 Saab, so congratulations to them. And also, you should have received at your seats a bag of what was handed out to the participants of the show.
Thank you, Rhonda.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank
Great
you.
job.
Thanks, Rhonda.
Bruce?
You forgot one thing, Rhonda, water bills.
I just paid mine today, so
We've had a few calls.
Sure you have.
This is the time of the year that, yes, these bills are always the highest of the year. How many 90 degrees plus days did we have this summer? Yeah, it was a lot. It was a dry summer. Normally, when I mail these bills out, it's pouring down rain, and people are like, "But it's raining. How could I didn't water that much." But yeah, so they're due October 4th. So far, all the complaints that we've had, water department's gone out. For the ones that they have inspected already, the bills are good. The water was used, so we'll see.
Okay, well, thanks, Rhonda.
Hey, Rhonda, real quick on the water bill. What's the time frame of the bill?
Basically, June 1st is September 1st.
3
I think
months.
The radio reads were September 4th, but it might have, the beginning date might have been June 4th, but
Okay.
we still have about, just a touch over 200 meters that are still a manual read.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Rhonda. Bruce?
The Finance Committee met last week. We went through Rhonda's budget presentation. They looked at that, and I think it's an outstanding tool for all of us to use to explain to everyone in the community what a local street is, what a major street is, how the pension fund works, and all those items. We looked at the preliminary year-end numbers. We will be budget positive, and by resolution, half the surplus will be going to the retiree health care. We got the latest pension funding actuary report, and based upon their numbers, which is voodoo science, now we're at 98% funded. Last year we were at 94. So that's a positive. We're almost 100% funded. Our contribution will remain the same, even though they are recommending a lower amount. We've budgeted a certain amount, and we'll maintain that. The other item of note is that we had one open labor issue with the command union. That was regarding a drop plan, which is a deferred retirement plan. We spent countless hours wrangling with the actuary to get costs and benefits and trying to get everything in line. What we finally have agreed to do with the union is defer the action for 2 years. At that point, where we'll reopen it. We've got a couple of employees that are affected, but we've managed to work around those. The majority of the command structure will not be affected, so we've got enough time to study this and get a comprehensive approach going forward. Next Finance Committee is the Tuesday before council in October, and you're all welcome, 10 o'clock in the morning. We're continuing on the next year's budget, what roads are going to get paved, and what equipment are we going to buy, the usual stuff. So that's what we're doing.
Thanks, Bruce. Any questions of Bruce? Okay, good job. Chief?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As I reported in an email earlier in the month, I was just leaving the station. We responded to 22 Oxford on a fire in the laundry room. The fire was extinguished quickly by a two-man car, Lieutenant Nicholson and Sergeant Wardowski. They were riding together, and the run came out, and they went directly to the home. They extinguished the fire with a dry chemical fire extinguisher, and this is one of the benefits of public safety, because we get there so quickly, and they used an extinguisher out of the trunk. What had happened was they had stacked towels on a laundry room sink, and it was underneath a under-counter light. It generated enough heat to light the towels on fire. So it was a great stop. There was some smoke damage, but there was very, very minimal structure damage. And the fire was out before the truck arrived. So it all worked well. I'd like to just share with you a couple of recognitions. We had I had a letter from a woman that lives on Briarcliff. She indicated that she's been a resident for 55 years and that we had taken her husband to the hospital several times. She was grateful not only to Public Safety, but to Public Works, administration, and the entire staff here in Grosse Pointe Shores. Also, Greg and Sharon Peters have again made a donation to the department to cover our canine services for the year, which is a pretty sizable amount. We're extremely appreciative. They are very supportive, and every year they bring in a check and to support our canine. We use the canine services from Grosse Pointe Farms, and we get really good service, quick service from them as well. So A thank you goes out to the Pierce Middle School. The students wrote approximately 40 thank you letters on 9/11 to our officers, thanking them for the service that they do. And it's an educational process for that they've been taught about the events of 9/11, and so we're grateful to them. They was very nice. I passed those along to the officers. We had a rather interesting investigation on September 4th. At lunchtime, when I went home, the street light at 25 Moreland was perfectly vertical. When I went home at the end of the day, it was at 45-degree angle. And so, with the help of Brett, and he was pivotal in this investigation, we identified the driver, the vehicle, and we have since contacted them. They've been out, so we're going to have the pole repaired. So, my thanks to Brett. On September 25th and 27th, all of my officers in the department will be participating in a certification Firefighters 2 skills practical in 3 areas. What this is these are the skills that are essential to firefighters on the fire ground. We're going to do our fire gear, the new SCBA, the new self-contained breathing apparatus units. We're going to do a rescue, ladder evolutions, and pump operations on both trucks. We do this every year just to make sure all the officers, especially the new officers, are well familiar with how to operate all of the equipment, et cetera. So that's coming up on September 25th and 7th.
Do you do that here, or where's it done?
It'll be done right out on the apparatus drive, and we're going to do the rescue in the basement. We black out their masks, and they go down there and they do a search of the basement. We're going to find a dummy and put them down there. Not sure who we're going to use yet.
I've been asked.
Is there a weight limit on that dummy? Just asking.
No, but we've done that before. We've made them extremely heavy. But our new scout car, the supervisor's car, is almost ready for service. It's going out tomorrow for graphics, and we're waiting on a couple of lights that we upgraded on it, so that'll be in service soon. A reminder that our firehouse, our open house, is on Sunday, October 14th, from noon to 4 p.m. We've got some interesting things this year. As a matter of fact, I've been on the phone with the Henry Ford curator in Dearborn. Many years ago, we donated a 1923 Seagrave to the Henry Ford, and I thought, I'm just going to give them a call and see if we can get that back. So I talked to them. They're going to dig it out of their storage facility. He goes, how are you going to get it back there? I says, well, I'll come out and drive it myself. And he goes, well, we'll see if it's drivable. If it is, you can have it. So we may get our 1923 open-top Seagrave fire truck back for the show.
So that means you don't need a new fire truck, right?
Revamp the budget.
I have been approached by an outside agency, and I was advised that 2 of our younger officers have tested, and backgrounds are being completed on these 2. A posting has been put on the Michigan Commission of Law Enforcement Standards website, so we will most likely be testing and interviewing in October. We still got a few complaints this year. Many residents don't call us, but the noise generated from watercraft on the water, not just at night, but on weekends as well. So I've been in communication. I've received some calls from several residents who live north of Vernier on the east side of Lakeshore, and one gentleman in particular who I told, we're having difficulty getting to the complaint to issue the violation, and he said, well, I'm talking to some friends, and we're going to get you a boat. And so they are going to provide the funds to get a small vessel, which we will be keeping at our park in a vacant well, and we can be out there, and we can be there in a matter of, in live time, so right away. So
Is this a new Marine division?
Yeah, a Chris
Is this
Craft.
a new Marine division?
Right. Who's going to get that
I might need
rotation?
5 or 6 more officers if that's all right. We have several boaters. We have one of my sergeants is a former St. Clair County paramedic who worked in the Marine Division for a number of years. So we have some talented boaters that could operate that.
Chief, while we talk about that, would that be just used for calls and emergencies, or would that be like a routine on the weekends, busy weekends, kind of a routine drive or ride around, I guess?
That would be, we're getting a lot of boats that are dropping their anchors north of
Absolutely.
north of the park. That could be a routine, depending on manpower, it could be a routine thing. The farms does have a county boat that they keep in the farms. They don't always staff it, but it could be something that we could use. More specifically, I would like to address these complaints that we're getting from our residents on Lake Shore.
Do you have jurisdiction over those people on the water?
Pardon me?
Do you have jurisdiction on the water?
Yes. Well, I just would say we secured a similar, actually a 27-footer whaler from Colony Marine in St. Clair Shores. We wrote a number of tickets and checked things out on canals and things like that.
Oh, canals, yeah, but when you're talking on the
But it
open
was
water,
on, we have jurisdiction now at a certain length.
400 feet?
I
don't
think the city attorney has kind of generated an opinion on that.
Well, we heard the
He's
discussion.
very quiet.
Yeah.
We know it's a nuisance.
So you're talking about writing tickets for open alcohol?
Well, no, we're more concerned about the noise. I mean, if,
Yeah, but the question was asked, are we suddenly going to embark upon a marine patrol?
no,
Okay,
that
and-
wouldn't be the intent of this.
Well, I understand that, but then the question is liability insurance.
Yeah.
That is a significantly you're significantly increasing.
Well, I'd be more than happy to work. Mark and I have discussed it. I really don't know where this,
There wasn't a,
This is in its infancy, let's put it that way.
wasn't a huge increase in our, other than insuring the boat, in St. Clair Shores. And
Yeah,
we
but
have the
Yeah,
same
we don't have
payment
it.
fee.
But Bruce is right, I'm not sure we have concurrent jurisdiction, you know.
And then you're looking at the scope of you have a precise manpower plan of 3 officers on, basically 3 officers per shift, right?
well, 3 to 4, 5 on days.
Then you're gonna pull people off on late, and those mostly are gonna be,
We're not anticipating a regular patrol. We're trying to address the complaints from the residents that are just parked. And sometimes
Someone call
they're
the
actually
Cajun
coming
Navy.
ashore.
don't we call the Cajun Navy? I really have, I mean, I have great reservation about us, and we've been here 100 years, and we've never had the Marine Patrol.
No, but the complaints we're getting now, this is in the last 4 or 5 years, it's really become an issue. I'm just simply fielding the complaints, and I'm trying to address them.
I
feel
think
kinda
there's
helpless.
other ways, you know, we have a county, they have representatives. You know, if the county wants to come out here and put a weekend deputy with a boat that you can deliver to or something, or work out with the Wayne County boat at the farms, there's a much more better
Perhaps.
manpower. Or we get a federal grant and say, there's a bunch of people trying to swim across the lake. You got manpower to go out and patrol. You know, I'm serious, I mean,
Well, giving a warning's one thing, giving a ticket that an attorney could defend against is another. And, you know, Bruce is making a good point, that if it's a public nuisance over the water, then it's under our ordinance. And again, that may be tested. But,
It could be tested, but I think the city could risk doing that. But having a regular patrol, that's problematic from a jurisdictional perspective. It's also problematic from an insurance perspective.
I can tell you that just the county sheriff that patrols Lake St. Clair, the jurisdiction is so critical that a few years ago there was a fatal boat accident right in front of the yacht club. And Wayne County took forever to respond because they're all the way down at the bottom of the lake. And Macomb County came and responded, and the driver of the boat was really intoxicated. But they couldn't administer any of the sobriety tests or arrest the guy because it happened in Wayne County water, and they had to wait for the Wayne County sheriff to get there. And when they took him onto land, I think Grosse Pointe Shores was there at the yacht club, and you know, they had to wait for the sheriff to come on land to initiate the arrest.
They do bring them ashore, and we process we do the data master,
Yeah.
the alcohol testing, and we would submit that to the state for the county.
Right.
That's right, they come from Trenton, which is their home base.
Yeah,
and
it's
that's-
really ridiculous.
well, I think the first place to start is with the Kylene. And say, in the summertime, why can't we get some plan to address this noise complaint? He's our county commissioner. That's, you
I've
know.
had numerous conversations with the Wayne County Marine Division, and they have come out, but they failed to see the complaint the day that they were out, so.
but they come 4 days later, you know.
And so what are the,
Occurs at 3 o'clock in the morning.
There's night issues, but there's also weekend issues from what we're understanding.
and what are the chief complaints? I mean, I
Excessive-
see what this is out there.
Excessive
It's
noise.
excessive.
and the, what they describe as the horrendous rap music. That's just blaring. I told you we had a complaint from Hawthorne mid-block off the water.
Yeah, it's terrible.
It's just, the sound travels over water very quickly, so. But obviously, it's a very good point, and we'll continue to look at it, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
you
Bruce
can't,
makes a very valid point.
it's easier, it's easy to do, easy to say, but it's fraught with unforeseen
The problem
things.
is you go to enforce a noise ordinance and you come across an intoxicated person.
Oh, then, yeah, and you got somebody in a boat that's
Or a drug
intoxicated.
issue.
Yeah, they're intoxicated, they fall in the water, they hit their head.
It's can of worms, so.
Then you gotta have your officers all certified and trained for water rescue out there. I mean, because, you know, you're gonna get some drunk guy and, you know, and something, it's gonna slip and fall. Next thing you know, we're gonna have all kinds of
Well, I'll discuss it more with Mark and with Brian.
searchlights, spotlights.
Letters were distributed today to Grosse Pointe Farms, to Mark and Grosse Pointe Woods in regards to the purchase of a three-city joint purchase of a Cascade compressor system to fill our new bottles. We had anticipated seeking a grant for this, however, we learned that the Woods unit is totally out of service and the Woods unit no longer will accommodate these pressures. So we have submitted something to the managers and in hope that we can do this in the future. Finally, I will be attending the International Association of Chiefs of Police Conference in Orlando from October 5th through 10th. Several national speakers are scheduled to address our group, so I thank you for that. And I also, getting back to the police car, I thank you for not every chief is able to replace cars when they need to be replaced, and these cars keep our guys safe, and the way they're maintained by Brett and DPW is phenomenal. We have very good luck with very few accidents. We have, these cars are in good shape, and we appreciate being able to replace them. Sir?
We had an incident where somebody ran over the median at the corner here.
Twice.
Did we get him on video?
No, that won't catch that corner, that portion of it. It's,
Well, we know what car it was, or did you
oh
catch?
yeah, we investigated both, and we've taken action on both.
But did the video enable you to do that?
The video doesn't capture that.
But you know, okay.
Possibly the Vernier camera would, but we investigated them both at the scene, so.
Maybe they were locked up on the curb or something.
That has been a we now have a large cone out there. That's a problematic corner. They either seniors or they're not seeing that sign, and they're not seeing that small island without the flowers in it.
Took the flowers out.
We need artificial flowers.
Yeah.
Well, they'll have the scarecrow. That'll be a target for him.
That would be a great idea.
Now, were they drunk, those two, or was it?
No.
They were
One was a senior, and I don't recall the other one.
just distracted or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's become an issue. It's,
Well, they're not going through the fence, so that's.
what
The fence
fence?
is gone.
Yeah.
That's not where they were going.
Time to get around that turn.
Yeah.
They have a way of guiding their way through the trees as well, so.
Well, thank you, Chief. Good report. Brett, Public Works?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Once again, it's a pleasure to speak with you this evening. I can say that although summer is coming to an end, you wouldn't know it by the way the weather is today. Our pools are closed and winterized, but the DPW still has a lot going on. The punch list on the tennis courts is almost complete. We have just a few minor things that need to be done to get that job closed out. Overall, I think that project went very well. A lot of positive feedback, and we should have that job behind us real quick. You may have noticed the sunscreen that got damaged at the park on the day of the car show. Belle Isle Awning, who normally takes care of our awning, was instructed before this weekend to give us a price on a new one because it was getting old. Well, now we don't have a choice. We will be replacing it. There's a small issue with the fabric. We're going to use a sunbrella fabric instead of the vinyl coated, the rubber coated vinyl that we normally have. Apparently, they just don't make that anymore in the colors we need. So we've been able to match with the sunbrella fabric, and I think things will look good.
Will insurance, will we be able to file a claim on the insurance with
No,
that damage?
It was scheduled for replacement anyway. Every year we have it taken down and they make repairs and they store it. And this particular year, when you fill out your card, we said, go ahead and make the repairs, but give me a quote on its normal replacement. So its life cycle had already been used. Belle Isle Awning will also be giving us a quote and a possible idea of putting up a sunshade over the concession stand. We've had a lot of feedback on, that's just an area that's getting beaten by the sun quite a bit, both with the people working the stand and the people that are eating on that area. So I was going to tell you, I'll pass that information when it comes along. Well, it came in today, so I'll pass that on soon. I'll get with the proper people and try to move that forward. The generator for the Crestwood Lift Station has been ordered, and at council's request, and a great idea, I might add, we did find some information regarding a system that would warn selected people. Brian, if I can pass this around to council. It's an electronic system that works over basically a cell phone thing, and it'll warn, page, email, text, if there's a problem with the generator that's down there. It's out of sight. There's no hard wires that come to this area, so it'll tell you if the system is good to go, and it'll also tell you if it's calling to be used and it doesn't work, it'll let you know as well. So that can expedite getting some maintenance in here. And again, great idea at council's request, and I might add that the project will still come in under budget with adding the system, so it wasn't as expensive as what
Is there
we thought.
monthly charge?
It's an annual charge of $700, and the first, I believe, 2 years is included. So it.
2 years it'll be out of date.
Well, that's true, too.
I think we talked also, doesn't that send a notice out to several of your crew or whatever? So
Designate.
Yeah, we'll program that.
more than one.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
And you can
Yeah.
send the text, and then you'll send an email, and then you'll send another
Yeah.
text, and
Yeah,
then you'll
it'll-
send
it'll-
a.
The carrier
Yeah,
pigeon
yeah,
comes
correct.
at the end.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we
So,
don't have it.
at least it'll expedite a repair. If it becomes necessary, we can get somebody in a little bit faster and get that system looked at. But also, it monitors the system regularly, so if something does go wrong, it'll tell you before it's calling for power. Would it have saved us in the last situation we had? Probably not. But,
How much time do you have before you got, fail-safe out there where it's really,
well, it's depending on the weather. If it's raining hard, not a lot, maybe a half hour. If we got a steady rain, we might have an hour and a half.
so my next question is gonna be, okay, so it sends you the signal, I'm not working, get over there, you look at it and you can't get it to work.
We're out of luck.
Okay, what are we gonna do then?
Well, hopefully
No,
this is a
we're
newer
going to-
generator,
we're
we
gonna-
won't have those issues, but if you can't get it to work, it's not going to work. We're not gonna have power there.
So our new generator that we're purchasing, has got a warranty that says, I'm going to start, and if I don't start, I assume liability for the consequential damages?
Well, I don't know if they're gonna assume liability for consequential damages, I think that'd be a stretch, but it does have a warranty.
I know.
You're
I mean,
dreaming.
It's not an 85 unit, it'll be a 2019 unit, and, it's gonna be quite a bit newer, and, but yeah, it's a generator, same as your home.
If you lost both primary feeds down at the other end of the city, you still got time.
Depending. If it's raining
Yeah,
hard, minutes,
You got minutes at that point too?
same thing. The pump station on the south end has 2 primary feeds, and rather than a generator, we just have a transfer switch. It'll switch from its main feed to the auxiliary feed, and it does notify us, hey, there's something going on here, we had to make a switch, so we call somebody in.
When they had that whole blackout on, you remember that?
I remember it very well.
What did you do then?
It was a dry day, we had no rain, and we prayed. God answers prayer.
Because you didn't have power for how long?
4 days, was it?
It was quite a while, yeah.
You were
We did have-
okay.
We brung a generator in the next day, and we wired it. We had wires going down the stairs, and our electricians had a portable generator that we used on that lift station. But on a dry day, That station on the south end may run on a very dry day, we might have 2 runs a day. When it's raining, it runs nonstop. So it happened to be nice and dry.
Of course, it only happens when it's raining.
Well, the problems came, thank goodness, from an area where the rain was way far away and, yeah, we were dry.
Is it feasible to put a second feed in on the northern end?
That's something that hasn't been looked at in years. I can speak with Jennifer on that, but that's why we have the generator there, because there's only one primary feed that's
Yeah.
available in that area.
That would solve the generator problem.
It would solve that problem, yes.
No.
Again, I haven't looked at it.
You can maybe, right. I mean, at some point, you gotta say, you know what, you gotta roll the boat.
It's gonna break, sooner or later.
You gotta, yeah.
Well, this generator was 32 years old, wasn't it?
Correct.
Placed in service in '86.
It's been doing us well. Again, I think I mentioned at our last meeting, it ran today morning before this outage happened. It starts every morning at 9:30. And it does its thing, and everything works out good. We have it inspected twice a year by the generator company. All systems are go, and then we had an issue with it, so.
We had the same thing with the backup generator we bought here.
Yes.
First time it was kicking, it went out, remember, we had an,
Blue,
Turbocharger.
yes.
yeah.
And it was just out of warranty. Working very well. I think it ran 2 or 3 days straight, and it failed.
What you're doing now is comments, it's at least foresight enough to start.
Yes.
If you just gotta take it, you know, if it doesn't start, you gotta take a hammer and whack it, then you got that first step. And if it's beyond that, then the other thing you can do at that point is alert the residents.
Sure.
You know something bad's gonna happen and
Going to be
forewarn.
happening, yes.
That's, so that, I mean, that's an improvement.
Thank you. Moving on, the DPW started work across the street. You may have noticed some fence missing and some trees missing and bushes across the street. We're doing this in preparation for the construction of the new park entrance. I did have conversation with the engineers today. They're hoping to get started next week or week after. Construction is also scheduled to begin on Belle Meade with Hutch Paving Company resurfacing the road. I have a pre-con meeting that is to be scheduled for next week. And we also have asphalt control scheduled to start work on Blairmore and other minor repairs throughout the city where we have some real bad concrete areas. We also plan on having them doing some crack filling on Lakeshore Road, north of Vernier, and on Vernier Road. I'm currently waiting for final pricing for that to come in. We'd like to get that done before winter as well. DTE has one service to install on Colonial Road, and we can say that road will be completed. I think they did a great job. The restoration has not been started yet. We scheduled a meeting with DTE Thursday of next week to get things moving along. We also have some areas that should have been taken care of previously with soft and hard restorations, and mainly Deep Land Subdivision, Lockmore. We need to find out why the ball is starting to fall there with some of their restoration work. It's my understanding the restoration crew right now is working in a whole bunch of cities. We heard earlier of the work that DTE is doing in the area. So far, they've done a wonderful job taking care of our residents, and it seems that they're a little behind what Grosse Pointe Shores is used to. So next week when we have that meeting, we'll find out what the delay is and how we can get it fixed. And I can say my representative from DTE, Jeff Parks, has done a good job of taking care of our residents. He's generally very punctual on the phone, and when problems come up, he's there. I'm also grateful to a gentleman named Jeremy Webster, who is a crew leader or supervisor for InfoSource. This guy's been driving around a mule that we've given him to deliver groceries to our residents on Colonial. We have people that require 24-hour health care, so he's driving nurses back and forth, to get them to the house. And he's done a phenomenal job on keeping that job going as smooth as possible. Did it go smooth? No, but the job's done, and it was done without major major problems. We had some pretty serious issues with a resident, and we got those issues worked out. And I understand today we have thank you cards in the office for us doing such a good job and staying with them. But that doesn't mean that we're done. Again, we have a lot of work that needs to be followed up on restoration work, and we'll stay with that as well. I was also going to mention, I'm not looking at my notes here, that I think Jeremy knows all of our residents by name. He has quite the relationship out there. He's a big burly guy, looks rough and tough, but he's just a big teddy bear, and he's doing a real good job. And also, as we get ready for our fall, the gardening staff is removing annual flowers and clearing beds. I noticed as soon as I walked in this evening, the flower pots at the outside of the city hall are missing. We talked earlier about the circle bed in Lakeshore and Vernier. The flowers are out of that, so we're moving forward with that. And probably in the next week or so, we'll start winterizing our irrigation system. So other than that, I look forward to speaking with council later in the meeting regarding some purchases that we have. And if there are any other questions, I can try to answer them this time.
Well, Brett, thanks for following up with the resident on Lake Shore today. I did get a call back. He was very pleased about how quick the service was.
Very good.
And do we have a plan on the porch, the slate tile of repairing our front porch?
It's cement.
Yes,
Yeah.
we are. That is
Cement?
It's a stamped concrete cement, and our contractor should be out with the next couple of weeks to make the repair. And I also instructed him to give us some ideas on an alternative, something that might last a little bit longer. And
It has that wet look, and I don't know if it's slippery but it,
it looks slippery. It's sealed.
okay.
And you're right, it sweats this time of year, even when it's not raining.
And
it
that's
sweats.
when it
gets
chips a
water
little
on
bit,
it.
or,
Yeah,
okay.
and when it rains, it's the last thing to dry, because the water just ponds right on top of it. It's sealed, and the water does not get absorbed in the
Okay.
concrete. So he's been instructed to give us some ideas and maybe take another
Good.
look and maybe come up with something else. But
Thanks, Brett.
it should be fixed in a few weeks.
Any questions, Brett?
Brett, on the Belle Isle awning,
Yes.
Mark had brought up a really good idea the other day at the dedication of the tennis courts, that we maybe put up a couple of awnings right outside of the entrances of the two tennis courts, where we could have some benches so players could get out of the sun and have a refreshment right there with a drinking water, what did you call it, a hydration station? So as long as we're gonna be having these custom awnings made so that they're all the same color, and, maybe it'd be something to look into with your bids.
That's a very good idea. I'll check with Councilman Barrett, and maybe someone on the park staff or park committee can give me some kind of ideas on what they're looking for. Usually my ideas, I'm not that talented on coming up with something that looks perfect. I'm more of a functional kind of guy, so I will definitely make sure the right people are connected and start looking at that.
And then I have one more question. So as far as AppCore breaking ground on the gatehouse itself, what is the time frame on that?
I can't answer that question.
Why?
Maybe have you,
Why can't we answer it? I keep asking month after month when we're gonna break ground on this thing. Last April, we approved the contract for the construction to begin work. I was told that by the end of this month, we were gonna have a ribbon cutting, and we haven't broken ground. Well, I mean, who should I ask?
we had a pre-con meeting a week or 2 weeks ago Friday. AppCore attended. They were gonna start on the footings that week.
And?
And that information was forwarded to council, and there's been no correspondence from them since.
Are they the wrong people for the job? Evidently, they don't think there's any urgency.
I don't know, I've never had the opportunity to work with them before, so
And then as far as Hutch actually starting the road?
Yep.
Time frame on that?
I mentioned earlier in the meeting that they'll be starting the end of next week or the week after.
Okay,
I
thank you.
did go out and look at a job that they're working on right now, last week. They're actually working at 16 Mile and Van Dyke, doing that Myers right there. And I was amazed at the equipment that they have. I thought it was a small company, but they have their own milling machines.
Beautiful.
They actually have off-road equipment there, and those big off-road trucks. So it seems like a very good company.
Right.
But
Well, I'm glad they're not
I'll
on
tell you,
strike,
this-
or, yeah.
Again, I mentioned this year, trying to get work done is next to impossible. You see 696, those people are not working. Yeah, it's terrible out there trying to get work done.
Well, I mean, with all due respect, I don't mean to, take out my frustration on you. I just can't believe where we're at. And with all the attention and constant communication, what's happening, and here we are, and we're in the middle of September,
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brett. Park Committee, is Joe here? I don't see Joe.
Joe's not here. Joe's fighting, hurricanes damage down south. So he's pretty busy down there. The dedication ceremony, we talked about tennis courts, they're all done. They had a dedication ceremony. It rained. It was miserable, but it was in the paper, and enough of us showed up to make it a good time. Thanks to Fran and Heidi for putting that together, and the Improvement Foundation also. They did a great job. We had dogs at the park last day after the last day of swimming. I don't know how many dogs were out, 30, 40, 50. It was great. It was, some dogs had a blast. My dog finally got used to water. Which is cool. Work has started on the new entrance, won't get into that anymore. Car show, we talked about. And then there was a meeting that was held last week. I was unable to attend, but I guess the parks, there was good attendance from the Parks Committee. They're about the 5-year plan, park plan.
The master plan?
Right, the master plan. And I don't have any of the feedback from the folks on the committee, but I don't know, are you gonna maybe talk about it or so? I'll leave it up to Mark to discuss that. We will be having a parks meeting early October. Once again, it all depends on Joe and his schedule and how he's taking care of things down south. I don't have anything else. If anybody has any questions?
Thanks, Doug. Is there a question?
No, I was gonna ask the chief a question.
Oh,
I'm sorry, that, the thing you mentioned, 11th of October?
The open house?
14th, open house. 14th?
Noon to 4, yes. Right on our
Yep.
Hamburgers and hot dogs,
Gotcha.
right? You're
Yep.
on the grill.
Oh, we're gonna have Wise come.
Thanks, chief.
Okay, thanks, Doug. Harbor Committee? Dr. John?
Good evening, everybody. I emailed everyone this morning. I took a 45-minute walk through the docks and looked at every single boat and made recommendations, what I think I should work on with Mr. Kolchak and Matt Seeley going forward before the next season.
If you emailed us, I did not receive an email from you today.
I got it.
You get it?
Yeah, I got it.
All kinds of, it was like 5 of them, with all the pictures
Yeah,
and
the
everything.
pictures were too big to send all at once. I sent one out, somebody grilling on the side of their boat in the harbor, which I don't want to go on to it, but
All right,
it's.
well, you know what, we'll talk and make
it's
sure
gotta
that you
get-
have
it's
my
gotta get-
email
That's gotta
address
get
then.
addressed, and then there's just a lot of little details that, if that would become a fire, it'd be a major issue. I didn't want to be the person that called the police on that one, but hopefully when we get our gatehouse, we'll have more security and we can come across these things.
Okay.
Is that prohibited or something?
Yes.
Is it in the park, in the harbor
Yes.
rules?
Yes.
Is it, chief?
It is, and my rangers could also address that as well.
I was just gonna say.
Yeah.
It was within sight of the inner hut. This guy pulls his boat back and blocks the fairways and just starts grilling
Well,
it.
I mean, blocking the fairway is one thing, but if the guy's, decides that he's gonna be the chef of the day,
Yeah.
and that's clearly,
Oh, yeah.
that's why it's prohibited. The ranger, so you should tell the ranger, and the ranger's got authority. If the ranger gets any static from the guy, just call an officer.
Right, I agree.
There's no reason to let that, to tolerate that.
That was a bit.
Because if he does it once, he'll do it again.
Yeah.
It's
Then you'll create a precedent, and then you got all,
He has already, he's just oblivious to rules.
You should make sure you communicate that to the chief.
Okay. Anyway, so hopefully, when I meet with Matt the next month or two with him, Mr. Kolchak, we're almost got this buttoned up and a great looking harbor.
looked really good this year.
Yeah.
I mean, everything was really nice.
Well, your attention to detail has been just terrific, so.
Took July off for the MAC race, but I'm back.
Well, and wasn't it your son, your son was beat a professional sailor in one of the last regattas? Yeah, great honor. Okay,
Good job.
Good,
nice job.
Thanks.
Thank you.
thanks.
Matt, did you want anything?
Yeah, just to say that, John, thank you for everything you've done. We had a list of boats that we didn't have MC numbers on, and as he went around the harbor, he filled in the blanks on that. We've got the website up and running now so that people can go on and see a schematic of the harbor, see what wells are available, reserve a well, pay for it online, which is pretty cool. Also, Tom is having a dry erase board made right now. They're putting a decal on it, so the entire schematic of the harbor will be available upstairs. So when people come in to pay for their boat rental, they can actually see the harbor and see what's available. So a lot of progress being made there. The other thing I wanted to tell you about the harbor is the splash guard for the seawall is being installed right now. We've got about, I think, 70 feet have been installed to date. And the contractor is planning on being there tomorrow morning at 8:30. So he's hoping to start putting in some longer days and moving along. But the installation's going well, and so far, looks like it'll be okay. I did talk to Brett about the need to put in some, rock or crushed concrete behind the wall after it's installed, or the splash guard after it's installed, because really what's going to support it and keep it from being damaged by, rough seas and ice is going to be the weight of that rock behind it. So Brett said he would take care of that, and it looks like probably in the next 2 weeks this whole project will be wrapped up, and we won't have to worry about 4 feet of seaweed coming over the wall or all of the rocks getting pulled out to sea every year. So it's good news.
Good, thanks, Matt.
Matt, are you, with your new reservation procedures and things for the boat wells, are you gonna make sure that Tommy puts that in the monthly newsletter? So everyone knows now what the new benefits are, so everybody,
We hadn't thought about the newsletter, but we can do that. What Tom and John specifically had said was at the end of the season, when the harbor's officially closed, we were going to send out a letter to all of the people who currently have a well and tell them that they had until whatever the deadline would be, like, December 31st at midnight, to reserve their current well if they wanted to keep it. And then let them know that whatever that date is, the drop dead date, that at midnight on that date, anyone who's not paid, the website goes live and it's first come, first serve.
well, you should also put that in we sent out that electronic newsletter.
Sure,
So
no
I'll blurb
problem.
on that, so that somebody who says, okay, I can do that instead of just a boater, because there might be some new people that might want it.
It's a great idea, we'll do it.
Easy way to tell everybody.
Good ideas. Bob, infrastructure?
Not much to report. Last week I was in Washington DC, and I did put a plug into Lawrence's office
For the
for
seawall?
and, see where it goes, but keep pushing that button and maybe something will get done, some money comes around.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, good. Improvement Foundation, Brett? I see one big happy face there, okay.
Married life is good, according to the.
Yeah.
Enjoying life too much. Real quick, I'm gonna try and tie both the foundation report and a tree board meeting together for you. We had our foundation meeting last week, 2 weeks ago. Everybody was very happy to hear about the master plan, how that's progressing, so got great reviews and everything very positive there. The tennis court dedication, of course, we've talked about. I had off to Heidi and Fran and all the girls who put that together despite the rain. And we're happy that the tennis courts are coming to an end. Membership is up. Our annual newsletter is being put together as we speak. And the next item is the Boo Fest, which is October 17th. We're gonna need some help to set up, of course, so I can count on all of you to wear your ghost costumes and come have some fun. And I'll try to tie the tree board into this as the gate project moves forward, the Foundation's Tree Board is gonna try to work a project together with you and replant some of the trees that were lost, so try to tie that together. I know we lost 7 or 8 trees, but we did manage to transplant the one, which is doing pretty well over there, so we did save one, which is a feather in our cap. And basically, I've been working with Mr. Renaud. Had a quick phone call with him regarding the new tree ordinance, so hopefully that does him some good. And other than that,
Good, actually. Thank you.
good, you're welcome. Any questions as far as the tree board or the foundation goes, I can answer them today.
Are there any questions?
Hearing none.
Great job. That was a great dedication.
It was a little soggy, but it came off.
Very good partnership. Thank you, Brett. Thanks. Legal report, Brian?
Thank you, Mayor. Since the date of the city council meeting held on August 21st, the city attorney's been engaged in the following activities on behalf of the city. Under general municipal matters, things that are covered by our usual retainer arrangement, we drafted and sent to the city a memorandum regarding a coordinated response to the United Impact Group FOIA request for voter ballots and records. If you remember, last month, within the last month, virtually every jurisdiction within the state of Michigan and elsewhere got this request from an unknown source called Emily, and Emily is financed by somebody big, for copies of ballots in all in the 2016 election, and it's kind of an open question why they want that information, but what the cities have decided to do and what we've advised our clients and what other jurisdictions are doing as well is, and we're allowed to do this under the FOIA statute, is to estimate the cost of copying all this stuff before we produce anything, and to then send what's called a good faith estimate to the requesting party saying you need to pay 50% of this up front. Once you pay 50% up front, then we'll commence our activities, and we need an extra period of time within which to do that. So that's essentially what we've decided on as a strategy and what others are doing. We also proposed edits to a draft tree replacement ordinance. Right now, our tree replacement ordinance is a little bit vague in that it requires parties that are going to do development on their properties to substantially replace trees, but it's really kind of an open question as to what substantial replacement is, and other jurisdictions have very specific codes and requirements, and others are kind of loosey-goosey. Brett Marshall mentioned that he had gotten in touch with me, and I got Brett's comments. He offered to help look at that ordinance for us, given his background in business. And I just got it tonight, and already can see it's really going to be helpful in coming up with a new ordinance that we'll submit to the city council. So thank you, Brett. We prepared comments on a plumbing and mechanical and revisions on a plumbing and mechanical inspection services contract that was up for renewal between the city and the plumbing and mechanical contractor. We also analyzed the Michigan Planning Enabling Act and the Michigan Open Meetings Act regarding member attendance requirements at public meetings. A question came up whether a planning commission member can participate in, if he or she is out of town, can participate in planning commission meetings by either telephone or video conference. And it used to be a prohibited practice, at least as far as the Attorney General was concerned, under the Michigan Open Meetings Act. The Attorney General and the state legislature have softened their position on that a bit. And they've concluded that video conferencing at least as long as the public is involved in that video conference, probably are acceptable, as well as telephone conference calls based on the same, essentially, criteria. So it's to be determined what's going to occur with regard to this particular planning commission member that raise a question. If any of you are going to Florida, don't get too far afield on this.
Take your homework with you.
Yeah, right. We also prepared two other responses, again, part of our general municipal representation. arrangement to two other Freedom of Information Act requests. One was for single-family and condominium residence information within the city, and it was a broker that was looking around for properties to gobble up. And the other is another election reform group that wants to inspect the city's vote counting machines. And we're going to allow that to occur, but after the general election in November, and that's fine with the requesting party. On the Deepland...
That's in case they break it, huh?
Right. On the Deeplands Drive matter, we conducted a review of appeal briefs that were filed by the neighbor group. These are appeal briefs that are now in the Michigan Court of Appeals on the deed restriction case. There was an appeal brief filed by the neighbor group on the one hand. We also received a copy this past Friday and looked it over of the developer's response brief that was filed in that case on Friday. And, you know, I'll just say that the arguments that are being made are essentially the same arguments that were made before the Wayne County Circuit Court. And really not much has changed. It's kind of hard to predict what will happen, but
Has it been assigned to a panel, the appeal case? Or
I don't know, Tim.
no?
I probably not at this point. I don't know. I can find out. We also conducted a review of the new Deeplands Development Preliminary Plat Plan proposal for the 55 South Deeplands property. We analyzed the city ordinances, timeline applicable to the new plan submittal for Planning Commission review on the one hand and City Council review on the other. Similar to what was there before, but with a few tweaks in the dates. We conferred with the city planner regarding his draft report and the plan submittal. We conferred with the city engineer regarding their draft report and the plan submittal. I believe that council has gotten today draft reports from, or actually semi-draft, I suppose, from both the city planner and the engineer. We also prepared for the benefit of the Planning Commission a response to the developer's quote-unquote timeline that he submitted to the Planning Commission members about a week ago. He's apparently decided to go to law school and interpret the statute as himself. And then finally, we're just doing continued monitoring of the city's involvement in the boundary dispute litigation between the owners of 866 Lakeshore Road and 870 Lakeshore Road. That's my report, and be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Brian, regarding the tree ordinance, revisiting, will there be like a bright line number if you remove more than X trees? At the Planning Commission meeting, I think it was 6 trees, that there would be potentially an issue.
That's the recommendation of the city planner. That's what a number of jurisdictions do. You know, they vary in terms of whether it's, you know, replace one tree, what they call landmark tree, you know, which is a big oak or a big elm or, you know, big trees.
Because my neighbor at the corner had 4 landmark trees, and one day they're gone. And it was like, well, what happened? It changed the entire view. But it wasn't 6, it wasn't 5, it was 4 just huge trees.
Yeah. The city planner in this case has made a recommendation. It's not part of the city's ordinance at this point, but it's consistent minimally, at a minimum, with what some other cities in the southeast Michigan area are doing.
Any questions for?
To be determined.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay,
what
good.
ends up being approved is
It's
to
still
be
a work in
determined.
process,
Yes.
so. Are there any questions of Brian? Not a good report, Brian. Mark, manager's report?
Sure. Was mentioned earlier, the Parks and Rec, and we had good representatives from the Parks Committee, the Harbor Committee, actually the Little League Group, a couple members of City Council. We appreciate all those who came, members of our other boards and commissions as well. Meeting went well. We're going to do some minutes up, and send those. You'll get copies of those. It was kind of like, it wasn't really officially a public meeting. It was an input meeting, and there were lots of good suggestions as to projects that could be considered. Everything from, hey, we need a new pool, to second floor of the gatehouse, or the pool, bathhouse and stuff, and some other things like that. Screening, some projects back here at the Schroeder Field House as well. So it went really well. We'll be doing some minutes, and then those will be incorporated by Stuckey Vitale, and then they'll come back for probably a presentation, first at Planning Commission, and then at City Council for adoption. And we have a list of those that were in attendance, and we'll be sending notes to them so they can respond to their committees as well. Next week, on Tuesday at 8 a.m., the Planning Commission will be meeting on the South Deeplands project. The developer has submitted his material. We have the consultants' reviews on there. There are a few minor things yet to be provided. You received a copy, and I guess for some reason there was some issue on the tree report that the consultant for some reason didn't have that I guess we did. So that was forwarded to him. We may get an adjustment for that, and there may be more material presented by the developer either at that meeting or whatever. And then Brian will be present for the meeting as well to assist. Two other things. Brett and I met on site with respect to the boundary dispute between the two neighbors, and the city is generally represented in this case. It comes out of our MMRMA insurance policy, and we've been monitoring this. There will be a proposal. I think the mortgage company for one of the people involved has put some money on the table. There's supposed to be an offer there, but I would say both the residents are nice people that we've met with. The attorney for one of the residents who has actually filed the suit was really inappropriate, and I thought was, very inappropriate at the meeting, and didn't want to hear anything and his only solution was to make the neighbor and or the city put back what was taken out. And I told him flat out, we're not going to allow a driveway on somebody else's property in the city road right-of-way. So and when I happened to see the owner of that law firm, who I know fairly well, I will tell him how inappropriate his retiree consultant or whatever he was at the meeting. But then the final thing that I have, I will be leaving tomorrow. We're going to Oktoberfest. I don't know how much sausage or beer I can drink, but I'm sure I'll be tested. And we're back in town on the 30th of the month. I'll be back in the office on the 1st. So I will miss next week's Planning Commission meeting. Brian will be there. The material will be sent to the entire Planning Commission.
Okay, any questions of Mark?
You won't be any versed for the wear?
Yes, I will have some verse.
Mark, you had mentioned that you had a meeting with the county regarding the seawall, and maybe you could illuminate a little bit about what we discussed with the areas where there's breaches and...
Yeah, Brett, as a follow-up, Brett met with, this was agreed to when we first met with the county staff, and that includes their Director of Public Services, Beverly Watts. And I said her, after Brett met with their staff person from the Roads Division, there's certain things they can fill behind, but this is beyond them from what they said. So I forwarded Brett's email explaining that, which council did receive, and indicated that we should meet as soon as we get back, because we do need to address that. And I thank you, because you have provided us some good information and some cost estimates that we will present to the county for both short-term and longer-term repairs. And perhaps the mayor's going to come in on this as well. We all met down there, and I know with the farms at this meeting, it went pretty well, and we have a commitment to meet about once a month to make sure that they're moving forward on this. I will talk to Tim Colleen. I made a note of that earlier in terms of the cooperation from the sheriff. But this person seemed to be serious. There are certain things that they can do, whether it's broken concrete behind, but where there's a breach in the wall, and there's several of those, there's not much that they're willing to, the road division can really do. The second thing, and I forgot to mention this, and I'm glad you asked Brett about this, there were some issues between the architect and APCOR with respect to some specific drawings they needed. Those have all been taken care of. We do expect them to start shortly.
Okay. Just to follow up to the 3 miles worth of seawall that you would want an estimates on, all of the mills have given me new estimates. I'm waiting for a labor cost from 2 different contractors to install it. And then the other thing that may be valuable to Brett is where the breaches are. I had mentioned to Mark that I've seen other cities just put some of the corrugated sheeting in front of the breach itself, maybe 5 feet worth, just so that they can backfill it so that the ice over the winter doesn't cause more damage to the wall where it's already damaged. So it's kind of like a Band-Aid, but it gets you through the ice season and prevents further damage to the wall till we come up with an overall game plan on what we're going to do. So if we have 4 or 5 sections where the wall is breached, we can put some steel sheeting in front of those areas and backfill them just to prevent, number one, somebody falling into that area, water coming over the road, that area freezing, and then doing further damage. So there are some short-term fixes.
Are you proposing that we do that?
No.
Well, no, we would have a company come and do it.
No, but we would assume responsibility for that?
No, we're providing pricing information.
The village would endeavor to contract out the sheeting and pile drive it in?
It's not that big of a deal.
No,
Yeah, except you just bought a seawall.
We would
You touch
expect
that,
the county to provide
it's like the general said, you break it, you bought it. You touch that seawall, Matt, they will sit there and they will get amnesia. If we do anything to that seawall whatsoever, even though it is absolutely required and we can do it cost-effective and be agile and all those things, we're gonna own that wall, guaranteed. They're gonna get in, no. You have to you can't do that. They would just.
The intent is that we would provide them information. They're also getting some information from some of their contractors. This would not be work that we would, 1, pay for, or 2, do, but we'll give them information on it, and we expect them to pay for it.
No, they're gonna take care of it.
And take care of it, yes.
I mean, we'll watch them, we'll stand there going,
We'll issue them a free, no-charge permit for it in our area.
You can't touch that wall.
Until it becomes a road commission issue, when the road
Even if it's
feels.
a road commission issue, we don't touch that road. It's a county road. If that road, the best thing that could happen is that road collapses. You have a big giant sinkhole on Lake Shore.
No one's hurt.
No one's hurt, absolutely. But that's what you want. Then they're gonna be compelled to do something. At this point, it's, everybody says, I don't have any money, we've got competing needs for infrastructure, okay, we've heard this song and dance. We're a donor community, like you said. They gotta step up to the plate.
Well, the good thing is that they are open right now. They like the proposal. They want more information. They've agreed to meet on a monthly basis. And I think they know that they've got a big problem. And I think that these are some pretty cost-effective fixes that they might want to consider. I have never suggested that we take them on as a city.
But I'm just saying, if even a short term, 5 feet of piling, anything like that, if 1 yard of broken concrete going into a wall, any of that stuff, then they will argue that you've got constructive ownership, you've taken it over.
Well, if I've miscommunicated, Brett basically has met with a representative. They went out to all the breaches with the intent of that representative authorizing the county to come out and to fill those breaches.
That's perfect.
They said they can't do it based on the nature of the breaches. I'm just coming up with a way that they'll be able to do it. to prevent further damage. And it would be on their dime and it would be on their approval, just to clarify what I was saying.
Brett, do you have anything to
I
add?
do. You may have noticed a huge front-end loader sitting here in the DPW. That's from Wayne County. They started today trying to backfill, not the breaches, but the holes that are on Lake Shore Road. There was a proposal that went out with a lot of repairs in Grosse Pointe Farms, and that's where they're working right now. They're just parking their equipment here in Grosse Pointe Shores. Hopefully, they're going to move up this way and repair some of the areas that the wall is not reached, but I'd be more than happy to pass that information on to them, and I'll get it to them tomorrow.
Brett, have they identified how many breaches there are?
Not
Is
that
it
I'm aware of.
three? I mean, I counted 2 or 3 once, but
I think there's more than that, yeah. It's in pretty bad shape.
So when they go over the lawn with their front end loader onto our
Sprinkling system.
your sprinkling
Yeah.
system, are they gonna at least put some mats down?
I don't know what's going to happen.
No, they
Quite-
didn't.
Quite honest with you.
So they're gonna break our sprinkler system?
Are they working in Grosse Pointe Shores?
Well, when they get there.
They were in
They're in the south, very south end right now. I
okay.
was down there watching them,
In the shores or the farms?
the farms.
Okay. Yeah, when they
Remember,
come
that's
to
the only
Grosse
ones
Pointe
they had.
Shores, we're going to have a talk. I was notified this when I got a call from Wayne County Roads saying, hey, can I park my big front end loader at your DPW because we're working on the seawall? I said, great. So I called
can
the
give 'em a
office right
parking
away, "Where are
ticket."
you working on the seawall? And I found it was Grosse Pointe Farms. But as far as the breaches go, that's good. I will take that information and pass that on to them and see what.
well, thanks for clarifying that. Brett, that wouldn't be run through the FAR committee, would it? The Federal Aid Committee?
No.
No.
Okay. Okay, well. Okay, good report. Mark, well, the one thing I wanted to ask, do you know when we're going to get the marker, historic marker for the building?
It's on order. We may have it, it's, may not be here for the October meeting, but it's most likely.
For November?
Yes.
Oh, that's perfect.
Possible that it.
So
would
we
be
could have a
October.
little ceremony in front of the building before the
Yeah, we
November.
intend to invite the architect who was involved in
Okay.
the addition, the Grosse Pointe Historical Society, and someone from the state office.
Oh, that'd be
And I
good.
think their invitation might take as long as, to send as, their response, I'm only teasing about this.
Yeah.
State Office's historic preservation is terrible in responding to certain things. And SOC was waiting for almost 8 months for a response, for the generator they were putting in for a clearance from SHPO on it. But
Okay.
the different person involved, and who actually is a student, I think, up there, student intern.
Oh,
We'll be
okay.
inviting them to come.
Good, okay, thanks, Mark. No old business, new business. The Chamber Foundation?
Yeah,
I
Jenny
s-
is here, or she was.
She was, yeah.
But they're having the auction of the dogs, at the yacht club. And the state has asked for, there'll be, for the city council to approve the solicitation, license, and recognize the Grosse Pointe Chamber for that event. And we've done this for a few other.
The Improvement Foundation,
activities
we've done it.
and
Mhm.
stuff. But because it's being hosted here, the resolution that's attached to you, I'm sure she would appreciate your approval.
Okay, I need a motion to approve the resolution for a charitable gaming license on behalf of the Grosse Pointe Chamber Foundation.
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, it passes. Now,
Next
the,
item is also, Brett doesn't go too far, because he's ready for this one. These are we have 2 vehicles, a pickup and a van replacement in the budget this year. He's, in addition to going through the state bids for these, I think both of these are state bids, my deal, he was able to negotiate some additional items to be included, so it meets our requirements for bidding and involved in, they are Ford vehicles, so we're keeping up our trend there. And I'm sure I stole everything he was going to say.
No, I think this is, I believe you have this in your packet. It's really to the point. This particular vehicle, or both of these vehicles, the low bid was the state bid, Gorno Ford of Woodhaven. Jorgensen is also a state vendor, and they also work with Mitten, and we try to get the best of both worlds. And lately, we've done some business with Crest, and we got some prices with them. However, they were high this year. The only comment I really have to make is the mistake on the budget. The impact on the budget, we had $40,000 budgeted for a vehicle. Well, I took a retail price. I called Crest Ford and said, give me a budget price. And it's coming in quite a bit under budget, so I don't know if that helps or hurts, but either way.
That helps you a lot.
I try to be quite a bit closer. But either way, I would ask council for their approval on both of these.
You might want to
Surprised there's such a variance between the high and the low. That's over 10%.
It is, and it's very unusual.
Yeah.
Crest? Oh,
I'd like to move that we approve the purchase of both vehicles as proposed by Brett.
You might want to tell him one other thing that he did, this is the common sense approach. He got that van, the new van, and he actually brought it over to the garage so it would fit.
To make
Yeah,
sure.
see if it fits.
With the mirrors folded in, like some communities that buy fire trucks, they don't fit in their garage.
Second proposal.
is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Brett, the snowplow, will you sell that separately from the other vehicle?
We'll sell the truck and the plow as a package. We'll probably put that on Mitten.
The plow and the truck?
Yes.
Okay.
Go as a package.
Good, good. Thanks, Brett. What do we have? Public comment? Do we have any public comment? Helen? No? No public comment? If not, council comment. Bob?
I have nothing further.
Matt?
Just hope that by the next meeting, we can say that we've got a access road to our park and that the gatehouse is underway.
Okay.
I
Tina?
just have one, I forgot. I'm headed off to Michigan Municipal League tomorrow,
Okay, good,
so.
good.
Thank you.
Thanks. Tina?
Nothing, thank you.
Bruce?
Just one thing, at the town hall on Saturday, I asked one of the residents, who lives over on Shortcrest, we had the flooding. I asked him how the city's response was to that, to the whole incident. And he said it wasn't good, he said it was exceptional. So this is a person in a bad situation with a confluence in their basement, and he was very, very pleased with the city's response. So that's kudos.
That's a nice way to describe confluence. Bob, any comments?
All set, thank you.
Doug? Well, Rhonda, you did a great job for the car show. There was talk about canceling the show, deferring to the next week, and I said, Rhonda, it's just so hard. But a number of prizes were awarded, or the mayor's choice was the 1951 Cadillac Series 62 convertible. People's choice was a 1969 Pontiac Grand Prix 428 engine. Best Ford was a 1968 Ford Thunderbird. Almost Best Ford was a 1935 Ford Deluxe Touring Sedan. Best GM was a 1964 Pontiac GTO. I think they called them goats, didn't they? Almost Best GM, that was a nice way of making a second classification winner. 1969 Chevrolet Camaro. Best Mopar was a 1926 Chrysler G70 Rumble Seat Roadster. Almost Best Mopar, a 1971 Plymouth Duster. Best Import was a 1957 Jaguar XK. Almost Best was a 1992 Saab. That was by our Grosse Pointe Shores residents, Stan Har and Laura Bartel. Best Special Interest was 1968 Plymouth Roadrunner. Is that a Hemi engine, I believe? 426. Almost Best Special Interest was our good mayor next door, Ken Pointer, the 1942 Hudson. So it was wonderful. Brett, you talked about the inaugural opening, the dedication of the tennis courts. I mean, it's gratifying to be driving down. I'm going to be looking as I leave to see who's playing tennis late at night. I mean, it's nice seeing the lights, seeing activity at the tennis courts now. I mean, that was a great partnership. It was a bad day. I mean, we had one of the best summers in terms of weather. Almost no rain. Almost rained on our car show. We had plenty of rain for the tennis tournament, which was canceled, and for the opening of the tennis courts. There's a planning commission meeting next Tuesday. There is a vacancy on the planning commission, and I invite anybody who's interested to solicit an application. Let City Hall know that you're interested. We have a chess tournament on Sunday, October 7th at 2 o'clock. So we have still plenty of activities going on at the city park. We welcome everyone to come to the park and see what we're doing and see the improvements with the gatehouse, see the improvements with the road. As one resident said, he said, you know, with that new road and the new gatehouse, he said, it's unfortunate, but he said, that's where we're headed, you know, and maybe we don't need it today, maybe we didn't need it yesterday, but we will need it. And so I think it's gonna pay off. Bruce has a couple ideas we're gonna have scannable entranceways be read, so we'll be able to track the demographics, we'll know who's using the park. We'll have really our first accurate count of the end users. So I think there's some wonderful things going on. Our next council meeting is October 16th, and future town hall meeting is next February. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you for coming.
Playing more?
Hey, Ted, who's dropping off the planning?
Yeah, let me know.
He hasn't been served yet.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
Oh.
He did, he announced
I-
for it.
Yeah, he asked for it.
He asked for it.
Yeah,
I live on Stone Meadow Lane.
well, come on up. Are we still on, Brett?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry, you were waiting here 2 hours patiently, so. Meeting's back in order.
Yeah, I live on Stone Meadow Lane, and
What is your name?
Regina Stapleton. I live at 61 Stone Meadow Lane. And a neighbor of ours, he's not right next to me, has put in kind of an abundance of bird feeders in his backyard, about 6. And he's got a lot of birds that come every single day, and consequently, we've been having rodent problems. I've not been having a lot of rodent problems because I have a Yorkshire Terrier that's out in my backyard taking care of mine, but my neighbor came over the other day and said that she's had the exterminator out 3 times, and they took, I think she said, 44 mice out of her attic. And there's also rats in the backyard now. So she went to the homeowner, and he indicated that he had no intention of changing anything. And researching it, I understand there's not an ordinance in Grosse Pointe Shores about having bird feeders. And I'm okay with a bird feeder, but it's obnoxious. And so now I've had, I think, 3 mice at my house, and I've never had them. My next door neighbor said she's lived in the neighborhood for over 40 years and has never had a rodent problem. So I guess my question is, how do we get an ordinance written?
I think you don't need an ordinance for that per se.
Okay.
We have a nuisance ordinance that
Yeah.
would probably cover your situation.
Okay.
Chief, yeah, I'm sorry, please come up.
Okay.
Come to the microphone and introduce yourself, please.
Yeah.
So we know who you are.
Roche. I live directly next door to the gentleman that she's referring to, and we have had an awful problem. We ripped out all of our backyard landscaping because we thought it was causing an issue, the way that there's a lot of ground coverage. After ripping all of that out, replacing it, we saw that he has like 6 bird feeders back there. This past weekend, I had a dead mouse in my pool. Like, we take exquisite care of our property, and it's just nonstop. And I've contacted law enforcement, and they said that an ordinance needs to be placed to do anything about it. As long as he's cleaning them up, they can't make him take them down.
I'm glad you made us aware, of a problem, and
Chief, you're shaking your head saying no.
I just wanted to address the complaint, because we actually have,
Yeah, the feed right there.
we generated a complaint on it, we spoke with the resident, and we advised him that he needed to clean up whatever debris was laying below the bird feeders. I spoke with the resident who lives directly, I guess it would be just east of this gentleman, and my experience has been that this is one symptom of standing water, wood piles. There's a lot of things that will draw rodents. Field mice are everywhere. They're not, it's not a pleasant animal, but it's not a rodent per se. But
No, and I understand that, but I just think in a area where we're already having such a problem with it, we shouldn't be able to have an open food source. Like, they'll eat anything. I've had to do way more research on this topic than I ever thought I would have to do in my entire life. And they,
So does he feed does he feed in the winter?
Yes.
because we had arborvitaes lining our whole backyard that we couldn't see in his backyard at any point, and we tore down 18 arborvitaes of privacy to help eliminate this problem because they were elevated. And it was a good spot for them to sleep according to multiple pest control agents. we've had.
And he's been doing this, is this just recently, or is this years and years?
I've only been here 18 months, so I
I
can't.
think it's been in the last year and a half to 2 years,
And you've lived on the street for how long, behind
about
this?
7 years.
And then, does this person live there as long as you, or?
I believe that he inherited the home from his parents, and he lived elsewhere, I believe.
And you've spoken with him directly yourself?
Yes.
Gotten,
He has no intention of doing anything.
Do you know if he's having problems with rodents too?
He has. The officer that was at my home said that he had had problems in his home even, and still wouldn't take these down.
So he's feeding them?
Every morning.
He's encouraging them.
Yeah, and I mean,
Yeah, I got it, yeah.
yeah,
They're about this big, and there's
Yeah.
about at least a half a dozen of them.
yeah.
Mice?
Oh, no.
No, feeders.
No, in the morning, it's insane how many birds
No,
are out there feeding.
Hundreds flock every
Pigeons,
day.
there's pigeons.
We had
This is an Alfred Hud Hitchcock.
Hey,
isn't it?
Brian, I mean, you mentioned that nuisance ordinance. What's your thinking there?
Well, yeah, I mean, everybody has bird feeders everywhere. I mean, I live, kind of in the country myself, and I've got 4 or 5 or 6 out in my front yard. I don't have this issue. We've got lots of chipmunks and lots of squirrels and lots of, the deer come up every night and suck the whole thing down and then fill it again in the morning. But, that said, I mean, the bird feeders are nice, but you can't keep one if it's going to engender a bigger problem, which is rodents. And, I mean, these people are talking about, it sounds to me like it's pretty bad.
Well, we have an ordinance that deals with harborage, doesn't it? Harborage for rats. A place where it
don't recall seeing
harbors,
that, but-
basically dangerous rodents like rats.
Let us take a look at it. I mean, I think that, either there or in the nuisance ordinance.
Okay.
It's
But I
like
thank
having
you
a
for
dog.
bringing to our
Yeah,
attention.
I mean,
I
King
think-
Shores even has a policy
Feral
that I'm
cats.
happy to email over from
Feral
their
cats,
website where
yeah.
if there's evidence that rodents are harboring in an area, they'll go out, someone from the city will go out, require you to take down anything that could be
Right,
like causing a home for them or to eat or anything.
right, mulching
They'll
or
make you
compost,
take it.
yeah, compost, okay.
You're gonna
That's in
find
the
it.
summer
I mean, that
ordinance.
happens to
It
anything.
is, it's right on their website.
So that's a vermin ordinance, is that
It
what?
is, yeah, actually, I think it did say vermin. I'm sure I can find your email addresses on
Oh,
the
that's okay,
city
we can
website.
find it.
I'll send it right over.
So that means you can't have a mulch pile of dead brush.
You can't
If
harbor,
there's any indication of rodents that are living in there, then you have to remove it.
Chief, do
okay.
you think that the guy would be reasonable enough to just,
Well, my officers did advise him that he needed to clean up the debris that fell on the ground, and whether he has done that or not, I don't know.
I'm just wondering if he'd take 6 months where he just stopped so that we could clear up the problem and then see what happens after that.
I mean, even the officer I spoke to said if he just limited it to one, that it, could make a drastic difference. I respect everyone's right to lose birds, but it's excessive.
Well, we appreciate you coming and making us aware. We'll look at the ordinance.
Take a look at it.
And, we'll see what can be done, okay?
I think there's someone else who wants to speak.
Oh, yes, come on up. Come up, Jim.
Who are these people?
My
Okay.
name is Jim Valier. I live at 31 Still Meadow. And as I'm standing here in front of these nice people and the members, I was talking with a buddy of mine on the phone. I stopped. A big rat, about the size of a raccoon, ran right across my yard, west to east. And I've seen, when I've cut the grass, I see, when you go to the ball game, a long time ago, they would sell peanuts and you would have to break the shell. I kept on looking at these things. What the devil is this? I don't know who brought it. Well, I know no human, but some animal brought it and deposited it, of course, on my lawn. Why that is, I don't know. But I did see the rat And my wife and I, we put a rat killer, it's a plastic box with some poison in there. And guess what? There's no poison left. So there's a problem out there. Now, how bad it is, I saw the one time, it was beginning of spring. I haven't seen anything since, but I can back up what the lady said. I did see the rat. And
Well, that dead rat would have been in
and
my
everyone on
backyard.
that block covers their garbage cans. Am I right, ladies? So you see, there's an outside source. You know, if we were by a restaurant, that's something different.
Sure, sure.
But we're not. There's no businesses in Grosse Pointe Shores, is there? So.
When I was told rats don't move very far from where, so,
All right, I just wanted to back up what the lady said and let the council know about it.
okay, thanks for coming,
So,
Jim.
Chief,
Thank,
you're gonna have your officers check to see if he is cleaning up the bottom?
I have just one more comment. It's kind of along the same lines. So I mentioned we live on Still Meadow, and at the corner of Still Meadow and Lake Shore, there is a light pole and a very large shrub that I'd say is at least 80% dead. And it's an eyesore, number one. But secondly, when you approach the stop sign, it inhibits the sidewalk. So you almost have to scooch up past the stop sign. And I personally have almost on 2 occasions, had I not been familiar with the neighborhood, there could have been an accident. I could see how it could happen. And I have called the police on it. I believe it's on city property, but I believe that the homeowner maybe is who planted the shrub or who tends to the shrub, but it's about 80-90% dead. It's a terrible eyesore. If you drive
On the
down the
corner,
street,
okay.
have a look at the
Well,
corner
do
of
you know
Still
what it is?
Meadow and Lake Shore.
Yeah.
You will see it, and it needs to come down.
Actually, Brett and I, 2 weeks ago, met with our traffic engineer. We looked at the corner of Crestwood and Lake Shore. We looked at the corner, at your corner as well.
Uh-huh.
There's gonna be some adjustment to the corner.
Okay.
To free up that line of sight.
Okay. Like the shrub will come down?
Well, we're gonna comply with the ordinance.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
okay, thanks for bringing
And
it to our attention.
Is Crestwood the one that has the tall hedges to
Yeah.
the left when you're coming towards the lake and you can't see around it until you're in it? Okay.
I mean, I got bicyclists, you got,
I
you know,
so
stroller,
scary.
yeah.
So scary. So scary.
Okay. Well, motion approved to adjourn. Okay, thank you.